Intro?
Intro. There.
Okay.
That's all I got today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're here to talk about our initial reactions of the second trailer for the Batman, which
The
is,
Batman.
yes,
Not
the
Batman.
Batman. It's a way to differentiate from all the other Batman movies.
Yeah.
And
Without adding a 26 to the title.
right. Well, one of the things that I thought I was just thinking about going into this is that there's really no wrong interpretation of Batman. He's one of those weird characters where everyone can do their own thing, and it's still valid because he's changed so much over the years. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I get what you're saying. For me, it's like it has to differentiate itself enough to hold my interest, right? Like
Right.
what's the sell? Like what are you showing me about this Batman? It's like Spider-Man in the same way, right? Like how many times do I need an origin story?
Right.
Like what's the crux, what's the hook that you're drawing me in with that makes this version of this character so interesting for me to watch?
Right.
I,
And
I didn't feel that way with the Joker.
yeah,
It was just kind of like, okay, this is like a totally unrelated movie, and
yeah, not to sidetrack too much, but it's like I enjoyed the Joker more as a movie just by itself rather than the Joker tie-in because
right,
I just felt like it wasn't necessary. It could have just been about anyone. It's an interesting story. It didn't need to be about the Joker.
right, and that's almost what I'm wondering about this. Like, are we going to look at this Batman, and are we going to say, well, if it was anything else, it would have been great, not trying to force it to be Batman.
Right. Um, I know the I don't know what they're saying is it's a grounded, gritty, realistic take on Batman. Which if you remember, the last time we had a Batman reboot was a grounded, gritty, realistic take on Batman with the Nolan trilogy.
Right.
Um,
Hey, hold on. You're skipping a whole generation of Batman movies here.
oh, what?
Select selectively
Batfleck?
omitted. Yeah, you selectively omitted poor Ben Affleck.
Well, the thing about Batfleck is he never really had a chance to actually even be Batman. He had
Right.
a Batman
I
versus
don't.
Superman movie, which was basically Superman 2, and then the Justice League movie, which was there was no time for him to establish himself as an actual
Right.
Batman.
Oh, what's sad is I actually enjoyed Affleck as Batman. He looked the part. He fit the suit real good.
Yeah.
A very like gray suit Batman,
Oh
Like
yeah. No, and like
he fit the role real well.
I was interested in seeing his take, with him as director on his solo Batman movie. I thought that would have been interesting because I think he's a great director and I think he has interesting things to say.
Right.
But it was too far gone.
Yeah. Well, the reality was that they didn't want him making a Batman. Let's be real here. Like, we look at this trailer and they show some Inception esque bass lines at the beginning, and then they try and wow us with a car jumping through explosions. Spoiler alerts for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. Uh, and uh, and they expect these things to wow us, right? It's like, well, are you wowing me because you used practical effects? Because
Right.
no one did it. And it's
Yeah,
like I hate to say Simpsons did it here, but like it's it's kind of applicable, right? Like
it
I go
is.
back to my original statement. What's the hook? What are you drawing me in as? Saying
Right.
that it's a dark, gritty Batman reboot is, kind of
And I was trying to figure that out because like the Nolan trilogy set out to be that, but if you really look at the Nolan trilogy, it wasn't a grounded, realistic take on Batman because
no, not at all.
it has the Christopher Nolan's, like larger than life, things that happen. You know what I mean? I mean
So
he's a
I've
performance
heard it.
director.
Yeah, I've heard it said that Christopher Nolan is Michael Bay making good movies,
Yeah, no, and
which
I agree because like he wants his movies to feel grand and have the
spectacle.
spectacle. And
Yeah,
in that case, it worked really well because he tricked audiences into thinking this is a grounded Batman movie, but when you watch it, they're through and through comic book movies.
I mean,
Just
let's be real. He had sonar vision in the second one. Like,
well, and
like
not
to
only
say
that,
that's
but like the impossible things that he does, like taking the time to like um set up the building so that when he
Oh, the
lights it on
fire.
fire, it's the bat signal
Hey,
and
though,
things like that. Like all
that's
the
like
thematic things that, you know.
that's like memeing the villain though. Like I appreciate that Batman like
Well, I
actually takes
know,
the
and
time
it's
to do
like,
that.
and he does such a good job of once you're sucked into this universe and this world that like you're just enjoying it. But you know, that's comic book stuff. It's
Right,
so in the real world, no one's going to take their time to go up there and douse the whole side
right.
of the building with
Well,
kerosene when
and
there's an atomic bomb ticking, you
right,
know?
and I always felt like that was the Christopher Nolan homage to The Crow,
Yeah.
really.
Okay.
Right, because in The Crow, remember in the beginning, like in the end of the first act, when he's actually the Crow, he beats those guys in the car and he kills kind of like the sub boss and he like sends him
Right.
off in his car, and then like the other guy comes running only to see the Crow light the match on the Crow, you know, kind of
Yeah.
laid out in the fire. And I always felt that Nolan kind of did that as a hat nod. Only the Crow did it in the actual grounded real way, like on the ground.
Nolan's a very
So
visual director. He likes creating these, you know, large, beautiful moments, but at the same time, he also loves the intimacy of character. And so that's where I
right.
think like the whole thing melded together and worked.
Well, and like you
Um,
said, he's going for spectacle, right? Like he could have had Batman in that movie shoot the flames on the ground in front of Bane's headquarters.
yeah.
And it would have been like, oh, he snuck all the way in here and did
Hmm.
this just to get in his head. That's great. But no, he wanted the giant skyscraper fire because, you know, whatever. Like
It's more compelling.
because Batman had, you know, some spare time and, and a couple of gallons of gasoline,
Right. I
a
know.
couple hundred gallons of
They just
gasoline. That's
gloss over
light.
a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which is fine. It's fine.
Right. I'm assuming he sent the Batjet with a spray gun on remote, you know,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
just flew up there and did it for him. Like
Um,
you get at some point you just Bruce Wayne logic that.
yeah, yeah.
But like jumping back to the trailer we watched here, um, I like the aesthetic. I got to give it
Yeah.
some like I got to give it some likes here.
I am
The
enjoying it more and more actually, the
the
aesthetic. I wasn't.
cinematography and the aesthetic look good, like consistent at least.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they had some reshoots for this, right?
Well, yeah. Every movie has reshoots, to
No,
be
but I mean,
fair,
like there
but
was some significant ones that I think even Robert Pattinson commented on, like some scenes where he trained more to and went back and refilmed because he was saying that he didn't fill out the bat suit correctly. So there was like I don't know. I remember reading something about him wanting to go back and reshoot a couple of
possibly,
like
I don't know. I mean, this movie has had like the worst timing as far as
yeah
production. You know, I
yeah.
mean, I think it was supposed to be out this year, and
It
they had
was
to
supposed to
put.
be out in 2020
Oh, was it? Yeah,
originally. Yeah,
yeah. It's. I mean, yeah, just poor timing. So I know they had a massive break between shooting. And you know, so there probably was issues as far as matching scenes and things like that too, where he probably had to go
true.
back and reshoot.
Yeah,
Um,
I guess that's where I'm most curious is if follow up stuff is going to match in continuity because that's really to me the biggest struggle of a production is when you
yeah.
have to go back in and match something. And if your you know script supervisors aren't dialed in and your film crew's not dialed in, like there's it's going to look different because you're not on set the
Well,
same.
it's not just going back and matching for your typical reshoots. This is going back and matching like a year later. You know,
Right.
like you look different.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the haggard lines of yet another job.
Right. Um, but yeah, the aesthetics are great on this. But one of the things that I kept thinking about is like, okay, it's not everyone's comparing it to the Nolan trilogy, but I'm kind of leaning towards comparing it to the Keaton movies almost in a way.
Yeah.
And hear
I
me
think
out.
that's kind of what they were going for.
I feel like they're trying to do the Keaton movies except a more realistic thing because they're starting off with it's not an origin story at all. It's starting off with him having been Batman for basically a year. The director Matt Reeves has mentioned that he was trying to sort of create the feel of like a year one,
Hmm.
but not so much a just a grounded, more realistic year one Batman still figuring it out type thing.
Right.
One of the other things that I've heard is that he's going to spend the majority of the movie in the Batsuit because he has very little interest in being Bruce Wayne. Which to me, okay, that's an interesting thing. Which kind of is similar to the Keaton movies because he wasn't in the Batsuit most of the movie, but at the same time, his persona as Bruce Wayne was very underdeveloped in the
I
first
mean,
one.
let's be real. The best Batman there ever was Val Kilmer. Uh, he spent to me the appropriate amount of time in the bath suit and as Bruce Wayne. Like, I mean, I
As far as the
jest.
balance, yeah.
Yeah, as far
Okay.
I jest, but like I feel like the amount of time that he was Bruce Wayne and the amount of time that he was Batman,
Hmm.
whether or not that was a good movie and that was really that's a whole nother topic. But I feel like that was kind of like the real balance. And like I would even say, what's the sequel to '89 Batman
Batman
uh,
Returns.
Returns? Yeah, I think Returns also had a fairly good balance.
Well,
Most of the movie is Batman.
I think Returns had the advantage of having a much easier to wear bat suit.
Yeah.
Um, they shaved a ton of weight off that initial bat suit, and like you could see it in his flexibility and everything that he can do in the movie. It's way more than
Oh yeah.
the heavy like 80-pound thing he wore for '89. Um, but I feel like they're trying to sort of do a different spin on the '89 type thing. They're not doing the goth nor Tim Burton thing, obviously. So Matt Reeves is bringing his own vision there, but it's very much Batman's Batman. He doesn't care too much about being Bruce Wayne. He's so focused on being Batman. Where the Nolan movies, like if you watch it, he's hardly Batman in those movies,
Right.
which works because you're anticipating him showing up in the Batsuit.
Right.
That's part of the fun. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I Go ahead.
I like Pattinson as Batman. In the Batsuit, he looks the part.
He moves and
Yeah.
he has presence.
Yeah,
It's impressive.
he carries the suit well, which is sort of surprising because he's a slighter fellow.
Yeah,
Uh, I mean, compared to Bale, who put on massive weight for Begins.
yeah,
Uh,
and everyone's gonna look tiny next to Affleck, who just like was
right.
so
That
yoked.
that puffy mofo. Yeah. Uh, but like, I think there's room for it to be good. I think I'm gonna hold my skepticism. Two reasons. I think the the vacuum that is superhero movies is still only a very small space. We're not far removed from the Justice League. We're not far removed from Nolan.
Yeah.
We're not far removed from Endgame. So to me, you've got to come at this in a way that says, "Hey, here's another superhero movie, but this is why you want to watch it." And to me, the way they're going to get me is, and really the draw for me is that those last, again, spoiler alert, folks, that last little piece in the trailer when he's walking down the hallway and they're just blasting him,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it looks like it's just bouncing off the suit.
Yeah.
There you go. That's something we haven't seen before. Bulletproof Batman.
Yeah, like truly bulletproof Batman.
Yeah, like truly bulletproof Batman. And I'm like, okay, now you have my attention. Now he's not just dodging bullets somehow. He's just getting laced and it's gonna hurt, and he's got body armor or whatever, and I don't
Yeah.
know, vibranium suit or some cross some secret DC Marvel crossover.
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness. He appears in Doctor Strange.
And just steals some metal and just pieces out.
Yeah, exactly. Just snatches a little and just takes a piece. Wile E. Coyote sneaking in here.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough visual element if we're gonna have a dangerous, violent, dark lit series of fights and exchanges to make it fun. And
The
I
action
think
looked
that's
great.
yeah, right. And I think that's really where you're going to draw me in on this. This is an action movie, not a crime drama.
What's interesting about that is that they've talked about trying to emphasize on the detective side. And if you watch the first trailer, it very much felt like they were, trying to get the mystery thing. And by having the Riddler be, the main character, it's very much a mystery type story. So it's going
Right.
to be interesting how they strike that balance.
Well, and I think the crux of that is to have that be the backdrop to it,
Hmm.
but not the focus of it. And so when the focus of it is the fighting, it really emphasizes the detective work and how that kind of motivates our path to the fight scenes, right? Like it
Yeah.
justifies the progression forward, and every battle feels necessary, and every place that we go feels necessary, rather than it just being like, where do I go next, like a video game. So it'll be
So
interesting to see how they strike that. But I'm gonna flag this somewhere under cautiously optimistic.
that's where I'm at. Cautiously
Yeah,
optimistic. I'll check it out because I'm just a sucker for Batman, and I
I
already
know.
pre-ordered the figures yesterday when they went out because
Yeah,
Why wouldn't I?
Your the Batman singlet is already on order.
Yes, yes, it is.
I mean,
Um,
everybody needs a onesie. Let's be real here.
a couple more things that I wanted to touch on. I don't know if you noticed in the trailer, but there was the whole thing written on the floor, like sins of the father, and he's trying to figure out what game the Riddler's playing with him.
Right.
So my thoughts on that, and I know you're not up on DC Comics or anything like that, but there was an interesting story, um, Batman the White Knight, and then Curse of the White Knight, where it was a very violent Batman that was sort of on the edge of being too violent in his methods. And there was this the subplot of what he thought he knew about his family wasn't true. And the interesting thing about the spoilers for anyone who wants to read it, but it's a great story, is basically his family didn't acquire their wealth through noble means. Basically, they killed the person who, and this is not his parents, but it's going back further up the family tree. Basically, someone in his family killed some rich, person and stole that person's identity and basically became, the Wayne family. And so what he thinks he comes from, like the line that he comes from of rich, upper class people, is really comes from low life criminals who basically stole the wealth.
Well,
and it's just
right.
an interesting thing because, like, okay, what does he do with his information? He thinks that they've always been noble and just, and in the end he comes from common criminals, which is the very thing that he fights.
Right. It's an interesting take, and it'd be interesting to see if they kind of lean in that direction. My only concern is, I think, I don't know, I'm not maybe not alone in this, but if you had a more violent Batman, I don't think anyone today would be like, nah.
No, and that's the thing. It works well in the comic, and I don't know. I mean, this Batman does look violent, and I can't tell if he's more violent because it's just an ever escalating thing. Just to make better action scenes. Is he really more violent, or are they just trying to up the action? And the other thing that I think this might be tying back to is there was this other storyline called Zero Year. It was set in the early days of Batman. And basically, the Riddler had taken over the city and shut off all power. And it was like he challenged people to solve his riddle, and then he would restore power. But it really elevated the Riddler as a credible threat for Batman because he's always sort of been like a weak villain.
Right.
And I really think they're probably going to lean into that, where really just show how smart he is, and sort of it doesn't. I mean, clearly, it doesn't matter that he's captured. His game's still going.
Right.
That's the fun, interesting thing to me, is that he's captured. He's
Right.
he's stuck, but
the trap has already been laid, sort of thing.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Do we want to touch on Black Adam?
Sure, but I got to change the background.
Okay.
All right, so give me a second. I got to find a cool background now.
All right. While we're waiting for the background, I'll address the fact that it's like a 1.5 minute or 2 minute.
Oh yeah, it's not
like a teaser trailer.
It's not. It's not an actual trailer for sure.
I mean, hey, let's give the credit the credit to the person who cut this trailer, Matt. It's a trailer. That guy gets paid minimum wage to do this.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I never saw Shazam.
Okay.
So I come into this in a total vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I felt like there was a lot of tropes in the teaser that I'm getting tired of.
That's fair.
So hear me out on this, right?
Here we go. Good.
Perfect. So the tropes that I'd like to see avoided in the next decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
Car, airplane, spaceship, being engulfed by flames, trying to escape an explosion, only to jut out of said explosion at the final second. Stop doing it. It needs to stop. I'm like, I'm pushing 75 years old here, and I've seen it a lot in my lifetime. So,
you look quite good for your age, though. I will say that.
Yeah. Lotion. I believe in lotion.
Yeah.
Um, this the second trope I'm gonna focus on, which pertains to the teaser trailer here, is uh, the bad guys unlocking a worse bad guy only to try and attack said bad guy.
Yeah.
Like
That
what?
just feels
I
like
like
it feels weird, and it's just a blatant excuse to show off
his
the
power.
other person's power. Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
they were saying heading into this is like, oh, we're going to show you why why the power in the DC universe is going to change now, or basically hyping up how powerful Black Adam is. The balance
right.
of power is just going to shift, is what they're
And
advertising this as, and that's
and
fine. But it's
have we
like
addressed the fact that we have a uh, white guy named Black Adam? I
he's not
mean,
he's not a white guy. Oh, you mean in the comics?
I mean, just in general, he's white guy ish.
No, not really. Have you seen him grow out his hair? He's got a fro. Um,
Let's be real here.
no. But
This is
honestly,
Jessica Alba here.
yeah. Well, honestly, as far as casting goes, he does look fairly accurate to Black Adam. With some
Yeah,
artistic
I'll
liberties, it's
give
fine.
them. I'll
It's
give them
I'm
that.
fine with the casting of him. I'm just curious to see what they do, because if it's just endless, like, oh, he's so awesome, look at all this stuff that he can do, and look at all this stuff he can do because he's so powerful, that's just going to get boring fast.
Yeah, it seemed from the trailer. My takeaway is that this is just going to be a CGI flex like Justice League,
Possibly, I don't
and
know.
and like I don't know. Again, I go back to the tropes of having people like find this artifact, and then suddenly there's a superpowered being here, and now he's killing somebody, and they're shooting at him. Like, if I let's just bring this back to reality for 1 second. If I go out to my driveway and a dude appears in a lightning bolt, I'm getting down on all my knees and asking him what he would like me to do. Oh, powerful overlord.
Right, yeah.
Let's be real here. If he
Right,
obliterates my
you're
car
not
and my
just going to
driveway,
start shooting him.
I mean, I might, depends on how sleepy I am, but I walk out there to get the newspaper, obviously with the submachine gun in my hands. So
Right.
yeah, I just there's too many tropes now where we're doing the archaeologists. It's the mummy, right? It's the
Yes.
villains who unlock the mummy, and then the mummy turns out to kill somebody immediately for nefarious purposes. Because why? I don't know.
Right.
Like, I just some of these things I'd like to see screenwriters in Hollywood, and I know there's probably a whole none of them watching this, which is great. So I can say this with total anonymity, but like, get your fucking heads out of your asses. Like, stop writing these cliches. Like, we don't need to.
Yeah.
Like, I learned this in school. Like, we can avoid these things. Like, we don't
Mhm.
have to do the ship out of the flames and the bad guys unlocking a bad guy, fighting a bad guy just to demonstrate how cool he is. Like,
Yeah.
there are better ways.
Yeah, I would agree with that. um some of the things that interest me about this movie is that they are going to pull in the JSA, the Justice Society of America. You're going to get Pierce Brosnan in the movie as Dr. Fate, which I know you don't really know who Dr. Fate is, but he's just
I
like a
don't
magical
almost know
dude.
who Pierce Brosnan is. So
You
is that the
remember
Thomas Crown
Goldeneye?
affair?
I think it was
Yeah,
Goldeneye. Come on.
I know.
Um,
I know who Pierce Brosnan is.
okay, okay.
But
Uh,
nobody under the age of 30 does.
right. Um, but some of the things that I think this movie is trying to do is they're trying to lean away from the Zack Snyder stuff, and so they're trying to present a whole bunch of new characters that can become the new face of DC, so that we kind of forget about, you
How
know,
bad those other movies were? Yeah,
yeah,
that's probably wise.
yeah, and so I mean they definitely are loading things up. I mean, they're changing,
If it weren't for The Witcher, I'd feel really bad for Cavill.
right? I know
He's a good Superman, and they've just given him such terrible movies.
he's a he looks like Superman. And I think he has it in him to portray a good Superman, but I haven't seen it on screen because he hasn't been given the script to do so.
Right, exactly. He's
Yeah,
given very generic. What's weird is, I don't know if you ever read Death and Life of Superman.
just
Uh,
the comic book version, but not the book version. No.
you know who he reminds me of? Eradicator. He
Okay.
reminds
Yeah.
me
No,
he
he
in the
absolutely
in the
is.
in the death storyline, he reminds me of Eradicator, and
Yep.
I always thought about it. Cavill, he's very like deadpan and serious and
Hmm.
like robotic, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
he would make a
man,
good Eradicator. Yeah.
right. And if they were playing it up, where you have the body and the body, and there's two versions of basically the same person,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like that was a real missed opportunity to show his acting range because you could
Yeah.
have the caring and compassionate Superman, right? The one who believes in truth, justice, and the American way. And
Right.
I had to float that out there because DC's just ready to move to another country here. We've got to
Uh,
appease China. We've got to appease China. We got to sell Superman in
right.
China.
Um, yeah, no, I agree with that. Who I think is really a fantastic Superman right now, though, and I know you haven't checked it out. I think I sent you the clip of like the opening shot of the show. Is the guy who's doing it on TV with Superman and Lois. He doesn't look like classic Superman when you think of Superman, but he just embodies the character so well because you know what he does that we don't see Superman that we hadn't really seen Superman do in a long time. He smiles.
Yeah,
He actually allows himself a moment of joy and like smiles and marvels at like little things and like
right.
there's something behind his eyes rather than deadpan.
Concern for the script.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, and I'll give Cavill credit and say that like, I'm sure he knows when it's out of his control. When it's like, hey, what do you guys feel about me changing this line? They're probably like, stick to the lines, actor. Get in
yeah.
line, cattle. And they're just
Oh
shoving
yeah,
him
I'm
through.
sure.
They're cranking out their summer blockbuster. Like, because I've seen Witcher, and like we know that he has range.
Yeah.
Like we know he can act. So it's like
Oh,
I'm just
he's
I'll relate it back to the trailer and I'll say for Black Adam, I hope that's not the case again, where we get a character and we get somebody like Black Adam, but he's just being shoehorned into being a CGI spectacle, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
a showpiece for special effects
Hmm.
and mustache editing.
Okay, so there's one more thing. I don't think you checked it out. Did you check out the Flash little snippet clip?
I did not.
Go do it right now.
What am I looking up?
Just look up the Flash. Just look
The
up the Flash like
I gotta be able to
2022.
spell
Oh my goodness,
Flash.
you might be here a while.
The
Yeah,
Flash
so we
twenty
can get
twenty
your
two.
we can get your live reaction as you're watching.
The Flash 2022 HD trailer.
I'm gonna watch it again actually too. It's short. It's similar to the Black Adam thing where it's short.
1 minute and 28 seconds.
You can go anywhere you want, right? Any timeline, any universe. Why do you want to stay? Fight to save this one. You change the future. And you change the past.
Are you in?
Interesting. Is that the same Flash from Justice League?
So yeah, it's the same Flash from Justice League, same actor. What they're doing is they're kind of doing their own take on the Flashpoint storyline, from what I hear, where
Where he's
Barry Allen.
traveling through dimensions and stuff.
Well, in Flashpoint, what he did is he went back in the comic Flashpoint. He went back in time and he actually stopped the death of his mother. The problem is it had massive repercussions on the whole DC universe. Just it was the butterfly effect thing. He never became the
Right.
Flash. All sorts of things propped up. So in this, yeah, he's doing obviously cross time, cross realities, and I don't know if you could tell from that voiceover at the beginning, is that was Michael Keaton doing the voiceover at the beginning of the trailer.
Interesting.
And it's clearly Michael Keaton in the Batcave at the end when, you know, they're showing him from behind. And,
I mean, it did look like 89 Batsuit.
Yeah.
Had that same big, broad, long neck shoulder line.
And then and then what he was uncovering at the very, very end of the teaser is the 89 Batmobile.
Freaking great.
See, and that right there is like, I don't care about like if the movie's good, bad, I'm in.
You're kicking me in the nostalgia now.
So yeah, I know. It's like
it's a big spoonful of member berries.
Yeah, you're just dragging me in by the nostalgia at this point. It's like I'm in.
I guess my only problem was, and this is a byproduct of the TV shows being good, and I didn't watch those, but I kind of watched over your shoulder for a while.
Yeah.
I liked that Flash. And
right.
I'm going to reserve judgment for this poor chap because I know that the Justice League movies were awful, but
the Snyder Cut actually did a lot to save it because, and hear me out, it's because since the Snyder Cut was 4 hours, they actually gave time to develop the characters that should have been developed in their solo movies. So it worked in that sense. Right.
And while I appreciate a director's cut, a 4 hour movie is just
not a movie.
This is not we're not making Das Boot here. Let's be real.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'll give the guy some credit. I mean, the concept is at least entertaining. Whether or not it plays into any sort of continuity or it just becomes its own little standalone like world of wonder.
What this is DC being able to hit the full-on reset button. This is DC being able to say like, okay, we can Days of Future Past this stuff,
right? And that's what it seemed like.
That's what this is. This is Affleck's exit from the Batman role. Yep.
Yeah,
he's coming back for this movie, but this will be his last appearance as Batman, and I feel like it's going to be like because the changes that the Flash made, he changed things. That Batman now no longer exists. Keaton supposedly is going to carry forward in future movies, not necessarily as Batman in an action role, but just as an advisor type character, like mentor.
What would be an entertaining twist? And this is just me spitballing here, but an entertaining twist that I could see is making Keaton Alfred. And he just takes the name Alfred, and only the Flash, only the new Batman know, right? And he's not British. He's just clearly another version of Batman masquerading as Alfred. And that would almost make sense, right? Because then you're like a direct version, like you're acting opposite yourself, but a sort of a different version of you.
What I think will be interesting is if, because right now the Matt Reeves Batman movie is completely separate from the rest of like the DC universe. I think what they might end up doing is they might do a wait and see how successful
Matt Reeves is and see if they can bring him in.
Yeah. Basically, see if people accept him as Batman. And then once Matt Reeves' trilogy is done, you could always cross him over and, just sort of, oh, look, we went to this universe because we needed a Batman for this, wild adventure that we're going off on. And now we can reform the Justice League, and do it properly, rather than rush straight to the Justice League.
I heard rumors that they're all going to be in it, but I have yet to confirm Bale.
I don't think he's going to be in it. No.
I almost hope not, but could you imagine if it was just a cameo? Just one shot of him in the Batsuit again.
I want to see Kilmer in the Batsuit again, puffing out of the mask. So let's do a quick recap of the three things. The Batman, you are cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. The tone, the visuals, the actors, they all seem pretty on point. It's really going to come down to execution. Okay. Are you giving me enough of an action movie that I'm not tied up in your plot and it's not so plot driven? I just want a Batman movie. I just want a good, fun, I didn't read Batman as a comic book character to be like always reading stories so much. Sometimes I just wanted to watch Batman fight bad guys, Right. And we haven't had that from a comic book movie so there's definitely if there's a vacuum in the comic book world,
Yeah.
it's sort of that. Like, just give me an action movie. And like,
Mhm.
so there's definitely that. Black Adam.
Is another swing and the miss from The Rock as he attempts to find his iconic character.
Yeah, pretty much.
Poor guy. It's like he's been in like every action movie, but like he can't get that career-defining character. Like Arnold has the Terminator, Stallone has Rocky. It's like he doesn't have that
Panorama.
character. Yeah, yeah, but he doesn't have that one character that you just associate his name with, and you go like,
Right.
yes, he's the only one
Riddick.
who could. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, or or Toretto. There's
Yeah.
those defining characters that's like you associate, that action star with that character. He does other stuff too, but at the end of the day, that's his biggest one. He doesn't have that. It's crazy. And then, yeah, so I'm like, I don't know, I'm mixed bag on Black Adam, but to be fair, we haven't seen a lot of it yet. We'll see how it goes. And then, what are your thoughts on The Flash?
I'm gonna remain neutral at this point. I don't think we have enough information. The concept is intriguing, right? You've piqued my interest,
Oh
right?
yeah, they knew exactly how to do that.
Right, exactly. So you're baiting me with nostalgia, but I've fallen for that before.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stay neutral on this one and wait for more information, I think.
Okay.
Which with superhero movies is kind of the trend that I'm going.
Yeah, it's not so much. It used to be like, okay, a superhero movie came out, you needed to see it because they were just so rare.
Right.
Now it's like every time you turn around, another superhero movie. So it's like,
And not even original characters. We're getting more Batman, and we're getting. I mean, I guess the Flash hasn't been done in a while, but
yeah,
like think about all the characters in all the comic books that we've seen. I mean, you can go to a comic book store and there's a near infinite amount of information and story to draw from, and
right. Yeah, we keep on going back to Batman.
we keep going back to Batman, and we keep going back to Spider-Man, and we keep going back and back and back and back. And now they're talking like, oh well, the next Captain America, and I'm like, just stop, just give me a new character. It's fine. Like, I would be totally fine with an X-Men team that's just a totally wildly different X-Men team. Like, I don't need Wolverine. I don't need Wolverine. That's fine. I'm sure there's somebody in that team that can help you.
Yeah, probably.
Little baby Heimlich fingers or whatever.
Yeah. All right. So
I think that pretty much wraps this one, and cue stunning outro. Nope, don't have one.
Okay.
So yeah, until next time.
Yep, definitely.